Constantine, Fáilte go Vale, Shakehead, Shockdo Do. Welcome to the 672nd O'Vale. Tonight's event is also the final night of Cork Harbour Festival. So congratulations to everybody who took part in the festival. It's been a great festival in Cork here over the last 10 days. And tonight's event is part of that festival. We're delighted to be a part of it. Cork Harbour Festival. So, welcome. I'm just going to give you a quick run through of how the night's going to unfold. At the start, as usual, we're going to have the 5-word challenge. I'm going to explain the rules of that in a minute for anybody who hasn't been here before. After that, we have 2 guest poets that we're delighted to welcome here tonight. And then after that, we'll have our open mic. So, the 5-word challenge, for anybody who hasn't been here before, is a writing challenge whereby you, the audience, and you are participants in the metaverse, are going to hopefully contribute 5 words, and we're going to take note of them here, and then you're going to have 15 minutes to go and write a poem or piece of literature that contains those 5 words, and then you're going to be invited up to this mic, and you can read your contribution if you would like to, and the person who gets the most combined votes through both the online platform and the reaction here in the room is going to be declared the winner, and they're going to get a drink and 2 books of poetry of their choice. So, and without further ado, if anybody would like to contribute a word to the 5-word challenge, we'd only be delighted. Sandwich. Delightful. Oh, sandwich and delightful in there so far.
Building.
Sandwich, delightful, building, and change so far. Carpenter. And carpenter. That'll do us. The sandwich, delightful.
How does the 5-word challenge work? What do you do with 5 words? You put them in a sentence?
So, I was going to check in that it's like you basically write a poem that contains those 5 words. Like it can be anything. You can write. They just have to appear in it somewhere. The 15 minutes
But
to
it
do
also has to make sense.
Well, hopefully, it increases your chances of winning. So sorry. Sandwich, delightful. No.
You have the last one.
No, sandwich, delightful. What did you say came from there? You said 2 came from there.
Sandwich, delightful, then you have building.
Yeah.
Then you have change. And then someone in the room says
Carpenter is the last one. Building, change, carpenter. Right, so those 5 words again, just for anybody who didn't get them, are sandwich, delightful, building, change, and carpenter. And your time starts now. May it be a productive 15 minutes for you all. Okay. So not to add any more pressure on you or anything, lads, but I've actually just been informed that the prize has been juiced up to these 4 books. Not just 2 books, there's 4. There's two chapbooks, a collection, and an anthology, and a drink of your choice. So, just saying. Just saying. Okay, so the mic is now open. If you would like to come up and read your 5-word challenge poem, we'd like to hear it.
Comments on the here.
So will we go with them first? Oh no, we
Yeah,
have.
mix it up. Cool. Enter code for the names.
Can I? Hi. So, sandwich full of tools, sitting on a bench outside the naked building. Delightful breeze during a lunch break. The wind suddenly stops, then change direction. The carpenter finishes the work, contemplating the dance of the wood, aligned, systematical design, watching the roof made of stars. Thank you.
Can I just invite you, if you're watching online as well, just to put your names into the chat there and say 5-word challenge next to your names, and we'll add you to the list.
Right. Let's call it perspectives. We describe the wind as blowing, while in reality, it sucks. What if everything we see is actually backwards? The butter on the outside of the sandwich, delightful fillings wrapping the bun, while life happens on the outside of buildings destroyed by carpenters. What if we don't lift our feet, but rather unhook them from gravity? What if we walked towards our birth instead of death? If birds, instead of flying on the winds of change, were to be lifted by the clouds? How life's upside downs would fill with joy. Our lows were to become pools of glistening gold. So let's describe the wind as sucking, and delightful fillings wrap our buns.
I'm going to go online now and let Daniel Shaw.
Hello, everyone. So there's no title for this. I want to change the world. It's a mess that we're in, and a challenge to know where to start. When I was younger, I had hope, my outlook delightful and still. My path led me here, with visions in my mind and dreams of building more. But I look at my hands, soft without callus, and I know that I'm no great carpenter. But maybe, just maybe, I can take these things and make them more palatable, provide sustenance in a sandwich of equity, respect, and a crusty loaf of love.
I think we have a winner.
I call this work of art. A craftsman's hands is his greatest tools. Where one sees waste, a carpenter sees opportunity, building change and new life into all he does. Delightful with creation, creating doors, frames, windows and stairs. But the best work of art is the sandwich his wife made him for lunch.
Jesus didn't get on well with the other carpenters. They were always stealing his sandwiches. It was lousy. They'd leave a note and say to get another from Heaven's Deli. He went to the corner, put in his AirPods to call God. Hi, Dad. It's me. You. They stole my lunch again. A baguette would manifest like a tulip. A chicken fillet would fall like an acorn. Lettuce would present itself from earth. After his delightful miracle, he'd go back to work on the building, resentful, still thinking of saying something, of making a change around here.
We're going to have Cedric next.
Can you hear me all right? Great. So it doesn't have a title yet. High up, contemplating the incomplete achievement, erect and loud at the top of this poor excuse of a building. But I tried my best. It's not much, but it's progress. It's my wet bread sandwich, my castle made of sand, which I worked so hard to raise up. Don't you dare wave your hand in disdain. I'm trying to be an architect of change, but I'm no carpenter. With a delightful smile and upon the stars, send my wishes. Let me stand tall and proud.
We might as well stay online and go to Catherine batting.
Close enough. Hi, but Dan. I love that Jesus one so much, so it gets my vote. But anyway, this is called Lunchbox. It was 2:00 and already time for Bob, the carpenter's lunch break. He wondered what his wife, Joy, had put in his metal lunchbox today. Usually it was a ham and cheese sandwich on rye, or sometimes 2 pieces of cold chicken with potato salad. These were certainly to his liking, but rather pedestrian, what with all the new changes he was making on the downtown modern office building, and he'd been craving something a bit more unusual, something delectable which would liven up his taste buds, just as the architectural plans he was implementing had livened up his own virile imagination. He came down from the high scaffolding and found a cool place to sit in the shade. Today was a scorcher, and he needed the shade. He pulled his metal lunchbox towards him and opened it with curiosity. He was pleasantly surprised. Had Joy perhaps read his mind? For what he found wrapped inside cool blue wax paper was a cold Cornish game hen, 2 garlicky frog's legs, and 2 buttered hot cross buns kept warm in tinfoil, and a pint of dark ale. How absolutely delightful, thought Bob, lustily biting into the game hen. Joy was as true to her name today as she was on their honeymoon.
Okay. This doesn't have a title yet. I was sandwiched between a growing love for myself and the love of someone who did not love me back. Every night I could feel the suspense building, a crushing repulsion coming from my core. When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see myself. I was like a vampire. I could only see what was unlovable. Then I met someone who saw me, who loved even the flaws slowly. Not a carpenter of souls, she saw the ridges and roughness of my mountains and did not think that they would be more beautiful if they were straighter. Now that is a delightful feeling, to be loved, holy and unyielding. When you love them in the same, there is no need of guilt and pain. Thank you.
In summer light on the kitchen worktop, the carpenter cast a professional eye over blueprints the architect had drafted for the building designed to house a congregation of rock doves, complete with perches, domed ceiling, no sidewalls, open to the elements, with a wide earthen floor to graze upon. Before a change in the weather, a sharp shower of hailstones scuppered his plans, and he constructed instead the most delightful sandwich ever known to mankind, with tomatoes sliced in arches, cucumbers, and shallots diced in intricate stucco.
Any further takers? John Horn.
We could call it choices. The silence was building. It was nice for a change. The city streets were turning to a forgotten state. I was rethinking my life choices, chewing on a cheese sandwich. Maybe I could have been something practical, like a carpenter or an accountant. There's no money in dreaming, I suppose, but sometimes it's delightful. Left and right, wherever the wind blows, my dreams will land like a feather.
Any other takers, folks? Yes.
Oh yeah, I'm Catherine Ronan. Thank you. I called this poem After the Split. Change, 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 change a room. After the split, I filled the room with a carpenter. He knew his nails from his knob. His knob from a knocker. So that was delightful. Building the relationship was as easy as keeping goldfish alive. Sunlight blanching short fin days, swimming in the deep tank of two. But afternoon tea has to be the best of all times, with a tasty sandwich of insanity. Thank you.
It's a little bit unfinished sounding, but I can read it anyway. The builders go next door for hot chicken rolls and gruffly order coffee from me afterwards. The engineers who are working on the same building but seem to have much more spare change come in 2 or 3 times a day, getting several cappuccinos, a sandwich for lunch, maybe a millionaire square for a 3 o'clock pick-me-up. The carpenter, who is, I must say, quite delightful, comes in at 7:05 every morning and gets a small Americano, very sophisticated. The project manager quit last week because they've gone 3 months over the time frame and they're getting charged 20 grand a week for the overtime. It's a pity. It struck up quite a friendship. He gave me all the goss, like one of the engineers was in love with me. I knew that already, but I didn't know that he had no friends.
Do you have a lady tonight so people online can know her name?
Her name's Roisin McCabe, for the people online. Yeah, there's a few of you now. I've only been informed since, but that your names have escaped the people online. So you can come up in procession and introduce yourself if you like. Do you have anyone online? Right, so we go back to online and we got Pam Campbell next, please.
Okay. All right. Uvalde, Texas. 19 children, 4th grade veterans, learned to build a delightful story sandwich. Bread on the plate, butter on the bread, lettuce on the butter, tomato on the lettuce, meat on the tomato, and bread on the meat. But on May 24th, 2022, the story changed from butter to bread to gunshots to head. 2 teachers first were told a chilling goodnight by a new carpenter of the plot, only he used bullets instead of nails. Thank you.
We're going to stay online now and have Augustina, please.
Oh, wow. Oh, well.
2 meat suits, mayo spread all over the bread, the mattress and duvet resembling a sandwich, but making sounds which should change and humble you. For some, a delightful melody, perhaps smoldering chemistry. For others, as irritating as a carpenter starting work at 7 a.m. on a Sunday fucking morning.
Hi. Nico? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Hi, I'm Nico. So, he stole my sandwich, but I don't want to fight. He made me more in the room for the night. I'd have offered him shelter. I'd have put him up here. I'd have bathed his filthy hair covered in beer. I'd have serenaded him with lullabies, nourished his carpenter hands as I slowly combed through his soiled, splintered strands on which ants were building homes into which he couldn't fit. I'd have brought comfort to his eyes, turned them from dim to lit. He wouldn't have been ready for the change, delightful and warm, his mind a perplexed, unresolved storm. He ran back into it, dripping harrowing sweat, this thief with my sandwich that I'll never forget.
There's people down there really want to come up and re-announce their name, you know. Ben is desperate. All right, Ben?
It's Ben, by the way.
I'm Johnny Rotten.
Never mind, Bob.
Never mind. Bollocks, God is still saving the Queen, huh? Should have just read that as the poem. I fought from a bright blue building, sandwiched between a bungalow and a battlefield, where a carpenter is making wooden remnants into coffins that will carry nothing, for there are no bodies here, only masses of ashes scattered for miles, and crosses that will carry no name. Yet I know, despite his frown, he is delighted to provide his services. I smile and wait to a summer sun streaming in my window, thinking, well, I don't know what I'm thinking.
Hi, my name is Jordan. No title yet. The joys of being tall. Nice. I could feel the melted cheese break through my teeth and lips, even if the sandwich was plated in the building next door. A sensation so surprisingly delightful. It reminded me of Uncle Joe, Cork's cunning carpenter, and how he changed a dusty plank of wood into a sculpture of magnificence. Thank you.
Colin Holland, are you there?
Hey guys, how we doing? What's the story? Alrighty. The scene. Mass. Sunday, 1998. I am 7 and the devil of the 99s. Ice cream is a delightful weekend treat and I have saved my change for 2 weeks. At home I have a block of HB. I'm thinking of wafers, of the things that I savor. In my pew I slip the disc from the roof of my mouth. Spit it out. It is carefully palmed between psalms. I get a guilty feeling, just a little harbinger, while the congregation prays the holy carpenter. I leave the church building, feeling like a killer. Butter wouldn't melt, pure vanilla. At home, alone, I hit the bathroom for a tweezer. Then I hit the freezer. My fingers tremble as I carefully assemble a child-sized conscience worth of damage. A tiny, holy ice cream sandwich. It is 1998. I am 7. I create an unleavened taste of heaven.
How are we all feeling?
A little bit impressed.
Anybody sitting on the fence back there, wondering if they're coming up to say a poem or maybe not? Or are you all meal takers? Oh. Lads online want ice cream. But there's no word about any other poets coming up, so. 18 poems on the 5-word challenge there, lads. Very nice. Yeah, so online folks, if you would like to cast your votes, I'll try and process them through my brain.
You're clapping. Did you vote for you?
Should we give it out now? So that was before I got it. It's me and you.
Did you give him an out?
I don't remember. I know I laughed.
That should be counted as well as that.
Is it very sophisticated?
It's me.
Show 2 times. 2 for.
I like that.
There's another one I there just says apostrophe Jesus words.
Right. So we've white smoke in the Vatican. You know that. Yeah, there's a few. I suppose one thing there, like Johnny Rotten nearly fucking made a surprise appearance.
Only nearly.
Ben was close. Catherine Rowan was very close. Yeah, Augustina was close. Cahill was really close. But it's JJ. Yeah. Jesus Jim back down. Jesus Jim with the win.
Amen. Who's in the house? Oh, thank you. Okay. Jesus didn't get on well with the other carpenters. They were always stealing his sandwiches. It was lousy. They'd leave a note and say to get another from Heaven's Deli. He went to the corner, put in his AirPods to call his dad. Hi, Dad. It's me. You. They stole my lunch again. A baguette would manifest like a tulip. A chicken fillet all like an acorn. Lettuce would present itself from earth. After his delightful miracle, he'd go back to work in the building, resentful, still thinking of saying something, of making a change. And then he'd turn water into wine and forget it all.
Nice one, Jim. Fair play. Yeah, well done, everyone. Really, really nice to hear your words there on the open mic. So we're going to move on to the next part of the evening. We just have a few announcements at this stage. So, yeah, firstly, Ovail aims to maintain a safe space for writers and attendees, and subscribes to the Arts Council's Equality, Diversity and Inclusion policy. We ask participants to maintain respect when communicating and to report any offensive behaviour to Ovail. Thank you. This week's the 5-word International Poetry Competition continues this week. It's in its 10th year now. The words for this week are jade, gust, sense, margin, and wheel. Please be aware that the event is recorded and will be available to revisit as an MP3 podcast and on video via vimeo.com/Ovail. Sling Slang is on. hosted by Cara Kirsch, and this week our very own Ben Burns and Margaret O'Regan are going to be performing at it. So do you make your way down to there? What time's that starting at, Ben?
7.
He's actually
Seven. Cheers. So it's starting at 7. It's up in Maureen's pub there. It's a lovely little pub, great venue. It's a great event. So if you're around on Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, get yourself down to that.
And with Ben Burns as well.
And Ben will be there as well. Yeah. So yeah, should be a great evening. Our featured guests on Monday the 11th of July are Rosamund Taylor, who'll be reading in person, and Richie McCaffrey, who's going to be reading from Northumberland. You're welcome, of course, to attend in person or online. And if you'd like to participate via Zoom, just email paul@info@avail.ie. Thank you to everyone who continues to offer donations. The donation jar is there underneath the horse's head. And there's also donations accepted via PayPal. These are a huge help to Avail, any donations that you can give. So big thank you. And yeah, no pressure either way. Very good. So yeah, I'll introduce both guests. And do you know which order you want to come up in? Or? Sure. You can decide as this is being read out. So yeah, it's a great pleasure to introduce you to our guest poets for the evening as part of the Cork Harbour Festival. We have Amanda Bell, who's a Dublin-based poet and author. She holds a Master's in Poetry Studies and is a mentor with the Irish Writers' Centre and Words Ireland. In 2020, she was appointed inaugural writer-in-residence for Harold's Cross and awarded a literature bursary by the Arts Council of Ireland. She is an assistant editor of the Highbun Journal. Her most recent title is Riptide by Dara Press, released in September 2001 by Dara Press. She has copies of Riptide here with her tonight. Previous publications include First the Feathers, Dara Press 2017, which was shortlisted for the Strong Shine Award. Undercurrents Alba 2016, which won the HSA Cantonment Merit Book Award and was shortlisted for a Touchstone Distinguished Books Award. The Lost Library Book, Onslaught 2017, and The Loneliness of the Sasquatch from the Irish by Gabriel Rosenstock, Alba 2018. Revolution, a chapbook of haiku, is forthcoming from Wildflower Poetry Press. You can read more about Amanda's work on clearisabellwritingservices.ie. Next we'll have Seattle poet Susan Rich, who's joining us all the way from Seattle this evening. Her sixth poetry collection, Blue Atlas, is forthcoming from Red Hen Press in 2024. Among her other poetry collections are most recently Gallery of Postcards and Maps, New and Selected Poems, released by Salmon Poetry this year in 2022, and Cloud Pharmacy, White Pine Press in 2014. For copies of her most recent collection, Gallery of Postcards and Maps, you can visit salmonpoetry.com and they'll be available there. She has been awarded a Fulbright Fellowship, the PEN USA Award for Poetry, and the Times Literary Supplement Award. Rich's publications include Crackpicano, General Harvard Review, and Poetry Island Review. She is co-founder and director of Poets of the Coast. And for more, you can visit www.poetsusanrich.com. Okay? So we'll start with Amanda. So can we please give a warm welcome to Amanda Bell, please.
Thanks a million. Is that okay? Well, brilliant to be here. I love being in Cork, and it's wonderful to be given a theme of the sea, because I seem to write about nothing but the sea. Actually, the more I look at it, so I'm going to dip into 3 collections. So the most recent collection with Dara is Riptide, title poem. I lost it to strong currents. It slid over my cold knuckle and got swept away before it sank. Sorry, shall I start that again? Riptide. I lost it to strong currents. It slid over my cold knuckle and got swept away before it sank. Though I stood chest high among tall waves while you dived and dived to save it. Every glint the sun hit seemed to strike its shape, as ebb jets carved the sand from underfoot, till we had to cede it to the tide and leave, quite naked for its lack. No new gold ring could bond that me, that you, those strangers lost to time. Sea, my love. Dear sea, you feel like home when I slide into your icy embrace, hissing like coal. The first time I broached your shallows, combed through your jeweled weeds, dark kelp parted to reveal, then reconcile with each successive wave. The rollers that we surfed, the way my father stood with arms outstretched to hold you back, tide foaming in his wake. The day you whipped the bay from right beneath my feet and threw me like a toy, you might have claimed me whole. Dear sea that never ends, I need to stand and stare, leave land and care behind. But see, today I walk when faced with your green gaze, shamed by your tangled freight, adrift, adrift, adrift. Fossil record. Outside, the willow house has died, survived by one wild cherry and a little patch of ruderals. This year's bluebells never got to share their spectrum as they faded from deep lapis through to mauve. The rambling rose has vanished in the briars, and we've had space to recognize and reconcile our incompatibilities. Beneath this sheath of topsoil, gravel beds describe time's slide, while by the river, boulders stand inscribed with coral calicles. These fields once lay beneath warm tides. And the epigraph for the next poem was a headline from the Irish Times: Paddleboarding cousins rescued after 15 hours at sea, August 2020. Bedtime story. What I love about this story is its clarity. There's nothing vague about the vastness of the sea or its indifference. Pulled way offshore, you lash your boards into a life raft till the dark turns thick and falls to meet the swell. I love that when the helicopters miss you, the Perseids flash like searchlights, echoing the ocean's phosphorescence. I love that in the sea there's just the present. No time to contemplate successive waves. I love that when they pick you up, you're safe. I use haiku as place markers between sections in this collection. So here's the first one. Drifts of sea foam, the clack of a sea otter smashing a clown. The cover of the book is a seascape by Donald Teskey, who has painted a number of series of paintings in Ballycastle, County Mayo, in the Ballinglen Arts Foundation. And I've always been very, very moved by his paintings. I've been watching them there for about 20 years, so it was wonderful to be given permission to use this painting for the book. And the following poem was, in fact, used as a colophon for a box set of Corborundum prints that he donated to Ballinglen Arts Foundation last year when they opened the museum. So this Tesky Balanglen. These are the seascapes of my dream. Sheer waves, surf a blinding white, all fractals tilting towards the center where a rock pool holds my eye. I scale down sheets of terraced rock, then all else fades to nothing but the tinnitus of surf, the tiny searchlight of a yellow periwinkle. And the next haiku, almost high tide, an old couple on the shoreline, hand in hand. This is a short high one, which is it's still a watery theme, but it's written about Con and County Mayo rather than the sea. It's called Hoppers and Daddies, which is grasshoppers and daddy long legs. The feel of a hopper in the dome of your palms, the gentle twitch of him, the dark quiet. It's mayfly season, and you're on the sandy bay hunting. There's a little wooden box for them, rectangular. One corner is hinged and lifts up on an elastic band to slip them in. There are gauze panels on the sides so you can count your catch. They jump against the solid lid. The muscularity of them, their hard carapace, legs like steel pins. Daddies are different, fey and weightless, limbs fine as hair. The squish of their bodies as they're threaded onto fish hooks. Side on to the swell, the sky looks closer, then further off. You watch the offering as it floats on the wave, the gossamer cast bellies in the wind. It hops, lifelike as the breeze gusts. Down below, they watch it too, the wary fish. Sometimes they take it in their chilly mouths. Sometimes they swallow. Silver scales drift from the landing net, one by one by one. I want to dip into first the feathers. It's my 2017 collection. This one, again, a lot of my poems are written in Mayo. This one is Mulranny. And I think shorelines are fascinating places where we hide things. And the flotsam and jetsam will portray or betray a lot about societies. Mulranny. This April day, the storm at last falls calm enough to see what washed up in the gale. Tight, tumbled rocks, sea glass rubbed smooth by waves, driftwood light as balsam, sundry flotsam. The macker stretches out behind low dunes where sheep sniff sea pinks glazed with brine. Old lids and frayed green shreds of twine blow loose across the intertidal zone. In a hollow, sheltered from the open sea, a swollen ewe, eyes gone, her lamb's hind legs protruding through her skin, reminds me that we're close to a Killeen, where a monolith raised high among small stones bears a plaque to mark unconsecrated bones. The next poem is a response to Hokusai's famous woodcut, Dreams of the Fisherman's Wife. Grinding the octopus against a rock to tenderize its dense white flesh, he sees the clustered suckers on its arms and walks to contemplate the breadth of what it feels. On shore, she dreams in diving deep for pearls. Lungs closed, eyes wide, hands combing through the weed where oysters are concealed. their ridged shells curled around each tiny iridescent seed. The artist halts with blade in hand to think how images cut into wood with steel will come to life where paper meets the inked woodblock. His inner reveries revealed. The dreamless sea embraces every grain of sand, more salt than blood, wetter than rain. I'd like to read you another haibun. This one is about gannets, possibly the most spectacular of our coastal birds. It's called So Long. The first gannet was a juvenile. It was sitting on wet sand below Lissadell House, quite alone. Its wings and back were dappled with dark brown, its breast and head dazzling white. A black line extended from the root of its long grey beak to encircle each ice blue eye. I drew close to see whether it might be injured. It extended both wings to their full span, raised itself on long striped toes and lunged at me before resettling in its damp hollow. I rejoined the crowd, took my place in the tiered seating and waited for the concert. But when I think back on that night, it isn't of Leonard Cohen in profile against the backdrop of Ben Bulben, or the drunk woman screaming for Marianne, or even the tailback of traffic leaving Sligo in the rain, headlights forming a giant glowing caterpillar which squirmed into the distance of the Ox Mountains. But the image of that blue-grey beak, strong enough to pierce the sea 60 miles an hour. Barely a ripple, turning frosted sea glass in my palm. The second gannet was an adult. I came across it as I walked the high tide mark at Mulranny. Previous excursions had yielded bleached driftwood, a dead pilot whale, small cetacean bones, a cow's skull, and a perfect skeletal sea urchin. And this time a dead gannet, its yellowed head just visible beneath a heavy dusting of sand. Its powerful neck, sinuous, seemed more furry than feathered, reminding me that the St. Kildans used gannet necks as footwear. Having neither pocket knife nor bag with me, I turned it over with my foot, admired its impenetrably dense feathers, its folded black feet, and walked on. But halfway back to the car, desire went out. I doubled back, deciding to drag the bird back to the car by the very beak that I so coveted, and then figure out how to get it home. It was very heavy. I tried to convince myself that the stench was of rotten seaweed or the wind from an overladen septic tank, but soon had to admit that the bird, for all that was intact, reeked of decay. Undeterred, I shifted it from hand to hand to share the weight between my shoulders. But just as the car park appeared ahead, with a sickening slide, the heavy, rotting creature slipped its skull bone out of the keratinous sheath of the beak and slumped to the ground, leaving me holding a pale scabbard, the weight and texture of a fingernail. I brought the frail beak form home and buried it in a flower pot until the stench evaporated. When I dug it up, it had faded and frayed like a wind-torn plastic bag. Nevertheless, it has taken its place in the mantelpiece between the gull's skull and some whale vertebrae, and is curiously beautiful, though I still can't detach the sight of it from the feel of that heavy body sliding away. By the light of guttering embers, bones cast shadows. This poem is called Cockle Picking. It's set in Connemara. Look first for an open cockle shell, spread-eagled on the dark part of the strand. Then, with your fingers, form a claw to dredge the soupy layers of the sand. Below the meniscus, bunched like fists, the little clumps feel weighty in the palm. It rained when I brought you cockling. How fast the mist erased you from my sight. Then you happened on the picture postcard seaweed man. He stopped his ass cart, asked you for a light. You leaned in, not expecting him to seize you, or the strength with which he held you, like a vice. I think of you whenever I go cockling, soft and shivering in your crackling plastic mark. You thought he'd hide you under piles of gleaming sea kelp, while he waited for the cold tide to flow back. I have a short haiku sequence from Dublin Bay in Undercurrents. Waves lap cut stone, ships waiting for a full tide. Keep box at low tide, holding up the dead weight of live lobsters. Seashore foraging, our plastic bag of shrimp locked in combat. Winter morning, low sun on sandy mount casts cockle shadows. Fishermen below the lighthouse, shags resurfacing. Rain-swept beach, the jellyfish and I find the sea warm. And I'd like to finish with two poems from Riptide. Sort of city port, seaport poems. The first one is called Lisbon. The limestone sets are polished smooth by feet, including ours and those of Cumshot, Pussy Slayer, and the groom, Ratjagger, as his t-shirt claims. We see them waiting for a train. Their matching clothing makes me think of armed police. At second glance, they seem like children queuing for a treat. They disembark close to the beach, take care to fold their special clothes before they hit the drink. It's barely noon, the sun still high, their bodies soft and pink. Eastwards, the Tagus snakes between two shores. The ferry to Cachilas chugs through mullet shoals. The sea is greenly tempting, but we only dip our toes. And the final poem is called Obad. I wrote it for my daughter when she was leaving on a ferry from Dublin Port. As we drive along the quays at dawn, a clean sun lightly strokes the domes, transforms the city to a hallmark card, all baby pinks and blues, white clouds scudding out to sea as eastbound geese inscribe the sky with their goodbyes. This is the hour the homeless own the empty streets. At traffic lights, a bearded icon supplicates that I drive on, my wallet left at home. I must remember to avoid the tolls on my way back without you. Throat catching on diesel fumes, I watch you disappear into the ship beneath your rucksack carapace. How I envy you this barely broken day. Dublin Bay reflecting nacre. Everything you need in just one bag. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. And Amanda, that was fantastic. Thank you so much. That last poem is going to stay with me, and I'm glad I have a copy of your book. I Thank you, Paul, for inviting me or letting me come. And thank you all for being here. As someone who used to run a series in Seattle, I'm really impressed with how many people have come out tonight and how wonderful the poems were. So I've enjoyed myself so far. And I had promised Paul that I would read about the sea because that's the idea. And yet I don't usually do what I'm told. So I'm partially going to do that. I'm going to start with a poem that I wrote for tonight that I haven't read before. I live in Seattle, Washington, and I live in a part of the city called Alki Beach, not alcoholic, but Alki, which meant by and by in the language of the Duwamish. And I walk along the beach a lot. So I don't actually get out on the water all that often, but I'm often on the shoreline. And this poem is called Light Ledger, and it's about a lighthouse where I live. I don't think I need to explain it anymore, but in one of the poetry films that were on earlier, there was a line about how light is the most overused word in poetry. And I thought, all right, I'm guilty of that in this poem. But it's a lighthouse. Like, what else can you do? I think that's probably all you need. That's probably more than what you need. Light ledger. The light on the point begins with a blue lantern hung from the side of a barn, igniting the flame to keep gazing beyond the beyond. The first lighthouse keeper in Seattle, supplier of kerosene, wick trimmer, more than 100 years past. I think of this as my origin story, the man, my lighthouse spirit, tending to his trees, and then at night, watching as the flames shift and lift to keep skiffs and whalers safe. The light of levity, of promise, the light of loneliness. Something there is that fiercely loves a lighthouse. This one once housed a keeper who read hours to write a study of Walt Whitman. Is this lighthouse a symbol of safe passage or my misplaced better life? Towards dusk, I walk the public path, past the watch cats and the floating condos. I feast on the wild blackberries, photograph layers of clouds. And what of the women who kept the light? Hannah Thomas, the first at Plymouth Harbor, Kate Moore, who lived to 105, Barbara Mauberty, Mary Bethel, Ida Lewis, famous rescuer at Lime Rock Light. Is this the life I should have led, the women of extended hours, of towers, forging a new humaneness, of light ledgers, noting each day's sound and sea and weather? Or perhaps the lightkeeper wasn't altruistic, and only operating a light to seek a lover on the opposite shore. Perhaps there was a way to reach a bootlegger, a pirate, signal when they could navigate the shoals, to be part of and apart from this world. The poetry of lighthouses, of liminal homes, of the ones courting solitariness, equipped with a Fresnel lens and a fog bell, each small house with its signature of pulse and sound. 3-second blast, 6 seconds of silence. 3-second blast, 18 seconds of silence is what I hear over and over again, alone in my bedroom. So there's the sea, or the sound, the Puget Sound, and I'll get back to it once in a while, but I just decided that I wanted to make it fun tonight, so I hope that I'm making it fun, but it may seem like a little bit of a schizophrenic reading, so I apologize for that. This poem is called, You Might Be Wondering Why I Called You Here. Dear ex-lovers, welcome to this floating world of limbo where breakups are revisited and unsentimental critiques offered. Au revoir to former existences, crescendoing over the Olympic mountains, complete with postcards and maps, affixed with counterfeit stars. Dear ex-lovers, help yourself to snacks. I've laid out nuts with a thought towards metaphor. Stinky cheese, for example. Settle in for some continental drift of loneliness, time's heartbeat opening and then closing above the sofa. Hello, Pablo, Ricardo, Saul. Please taste the oysters of angst, the grapes grown of slow self-esteem, the years. God will see you now, ready with a pen in her hand, a sheaf of parchment. You are not inanimate, your meltdown, your mistress, your sadness, all here after decades. You're not my idea of Marilyn Monroe, one of you said once on our first and last afternoon together. That's worth remembering for your deathbed. Limbo is usually for the uncircumcised, the unbaptized infants who die before their name day. But here you are, misunderstood and misaligned, you might protest. And I'd agree. But where are the doorknobs? Where are the doors that lead out of this cold mind of mine? And back to the water. I found my first typo in this book. It's a new book, and in the first one, I was like, oh, shit. Reading the rising tides. Most nights along the shoreline, I gaze at the festival of gulls and gorgeous women, all with wings and places to go. My mind moves like a cloudscape over stippled flashes of blood orange and beach rose. I read the text of the tides, the iridescent stones and seaweed, driftwood and silt. Against so strong a current, you cannot advance, and yet we do. Some days I watch a caftanned woman playing trumpet to the outgoing waters. Some nights I meet a man undigging his coffin in the sand. Lovers and tough mothers, newborns with fathers who coo in Creole. We nod briefly. Our pockets overflow with oyster shells and coins too few for the seaside bar. What compels us from our houses, even during a pandemic, to wander and stroll and skate? I look out in wonder with the others, watching our bright failures, our sea-lit joys. I don't know how you do this, but I always pick poems I'd like to read, and there's too many of them, so then it's like, okay, this sounds like a good title at this particular second. It's a risk, but I feel like you're risking being here for a poet you probably never heard of. This one is called We Wish to Name It, That's What Humans Do. And what you might have heard of is the project it comes from, which was called Telephone. And I'm guessing this is a universal game where as a kid, you whisper something in one person's ear and they whisper it to someone else, and then thank you, by the end, it's changed. So someone I didn't know at the time, Nathan Langston, was worried about what he was going to do during the pandemic. And early on, because of his incredible computers, he set up what he says is the largest art gallery in the world online. And essentially, if you were interested, you filled out a small piece of paper or screen, and he hooked you up with another artist. And so this poem is inspired by a photograph. And if you go to Telephone Nathan Langston online, you can look at art from all over the world. So if it's a little weird, I'm going to blame it on the photograph. We wish to name it. That's what humans do. In the middle of open waters, wind currents arrive undocumented, like constellations of travelers. until one wave splits open in the eye of an oleander onto the vertebrae of a woman collaging her life back together in ribbon-cut tiles, her iridescence consensual as cloudlight. The waves open to an archipelago of lovers wearing cool outfits in coral, squid ink, and half shells. Here, you and I can stay up all night, your Aegean to my Adriatic, my Pacific inlet to your Atlantic shore. Our floating bridge bodies tease and cajole, stumble and splash and rise into one. Aren't we all made of water, one ocean? We call love deep or shallow, intricate sexual hieroglyphics like tide charts or miniature stamps to lick off. Where shall we send them? In the crested wave, you and I breathe into blue portals, open to a heartsway called home. And it's sort of nice to have a book that has all your books in one or selected poems. So I used to bring all these books and be afraid they were going to fall over. I worked in human rights for a long time, and one of the places I sort of fell in love with was Bosnia. And I was in Bosnia right after the war. And this poem is written in the form of a ghazal. And the word you'll hear repeated throughout is word. Ghazal for the woman from Vitez, Bosnia-Herzegovina. It's the best watermelon in the world, but there's no way to say it in words. She had squatted in the space for apples and pears under the staircase 1 year beyond the place of words. Now she comes back with tea, examines me closely, my out-of-date phrasebook, my mispronounced words. I ask for the toilet, and she shows me the bedrooms, bombed by neighbors who should have known how to use words. We walk out to her garden in late afternoon light, survey squash plants and corn stalks. We re-enter words. In Bosnian, the tomato is called paradise, sweetness transferred from some other country's words. We drink rounds of whiskey, call her sons on the phone, laughing because we have found a way out through words. I realized people have asked like what my themes are or what I've been writing about, and I have a number of poems about women who I don't know their names, and I don't know the name of the woman from Vitez. She literally came out into the street and pulled us into her garden. All right. You may know the poem by Pablo Neruda, Tired of Being a Man. This poem's called Tired of Being a Woman. As it happens, I am tired of being a woman, exhausted by the bathroom scale, the carnal ins and outs of who did what to whom. I am tired of rosehip serums that the persistent cat licks off, tired of chamomile face masks, my forehead iridescent as a lacquered carousel horse. I am tired of my country, tired of my feet, of searching for husbands like commuters claim their train cars. One in a dark and empty space, another a little off the rails. Instead, I'd prefer to be a corner store with an echoing bell of welcome. The attainable pleasures, chocolate bars, honeyed challah, yellow tulips in winter. Honestly, I am exhausted from walking home alone, past kneeling lovers, past swans. I don't want to go on paddling towards fascism in the West. I don't want another pizza or to watch the fallen bee stars on New Year's Eve. I can't go on as a pair of eyeglasses. I cruise the local ice cream parlors, the salons, the table linen restaurants that thrust the scent of sirloin and rum onto the sidewalk, that scarf up the mortgage payment, the safety net, the lifetime of save and save and save. All I want is the frisson that comes from an operatic sky, from another stroll at dusk. All I want, my lover's lips on the curve of my back. I want the shoreline where sea lions appear and almost wave to me as they warm their flippers in the briny air. This is the 2-poem warning. And when I read in Bosnia, that was their favorite thing, was that we gave a two-poem warning. And also that people from Seattle were called Seattleites because they think Americans are all out of outer space anyway. So I could say more, but I won't. Right, that's where it comes from. All right, well, one of the poems went away, so you're going to get another poem. And I'm hoping, I did ask Amanda before we started, how many people here remember a television show that was on from the 60s, but it ran and ran and ran, called Bewitched. Actually, I asked Mary this afternoon. And there was that one, the witch Samantha, who could do great things with her nose and magic would happen. I was fascinated with her. I think I still am. What I learned from Bewitched. A girl could have a boy's name and still be beautiful. Sometimes exchanges between husbands and wives would be boring, all pot roast and brisket. Yet a twitch of the nose and clean dishes could appear like a universe rewilding. But what good was traditional magic if Sam stayed with what's his name? How could anyone love a man the opposite of handsome, only begrudgingly kind? What if the network had written her a new lover? If together the two women had cleaned the neighborhood of bigotry, of crime? I watched Bewitched as my mother bleached the kitchen sink, let down hems from hand-me-down coats. I cast spells and collected international postage stamps. Abracadabra, survival. Abracadabra, something, something new. All right, last poem. Thank you for being such a wonderful audience and laughing at some of my jokes. This poem isn't about the water, but it is going to kind of figure into a water theme because Morocco, where this poem takes place, is a coastal country. And that's as much water as we're going to get. How to travel in the middle period. Say yes to the open scab dog that accompanies you through the village. And yes to the wood ash that rises up daily from the workers' rooms, to the farmer on his tractor who from across a broad distance calls to you, Bonjour, Madame, ça va? On your first Atlas Mountain morning in Umas. Say oui to the tribe of cats and wood turtles that appear along the lip of the pool, waiting for a bite of the sun's bananas. Taste yes in the breakfast of argan butter and almonds. Tattoo yes to the remaining you and the changing you, to the first full body scrub. Watch as parts of you scroll and scatter as the Moroccan woman leads you from the steam hall to the shower to the bath. Yes, anointed with oils of geranium and rose. And so you've learned to travel through multiple waters and sky in the glide and drift of it, like tree goats that forage, then build their lives mid-air, knowing yes as the one chosen thing.
Thank you so much, Susan and Amanda. Thank you so much. It's a real treat. Yeah, unreal. Thank you. I have the open mic list in my hand here. I'm going to pass it around there. We're going to take a 5-minute break. But before we do, can we give a special round of applause again to Amanda?
That's the one who actually like knew Seattle. All right, you know where I am, so
You walk around that way.
start to
Easier if you do this
Yeah, well, I remember like when you opened the chair last, that day just gone the day before. Yeah, yes,
Gotta check her
Send me something.
I will.
I don't have any
Are we happy to go back then?
Can we just slot in there next to just one moment?
Is that the... No, that's the other one. Okay, folks, we are back. It's a bit of hush. If you please. Lads, we're going to start the open mic there. Sorry to interrupt here. So yeah, we're going to start the open mic online. And coming to you all the way from Greece, we're going to have Alexandra.
Hello. Can you see the graphics going by? Can everyone see the graphics on the slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but just, yeah. Push it over.
Yeah, it counts.
In the temple high above the sea, a sweet, gentle breeze blows through the orange curtains. And here there is a sweet flame burning in every heart, melting all resistance under the powers that guide us through sorrow and joy, within and without, knowing how not to hurt or be hurt by others, to be proud of ourselves on earth as above, unable to understand, unable to bear cruelty, using our strength to protect, to care for, dancing, dancing to diffuse, in the waves, over the waves, transcending higher and higher. Wounds, no more wounds, in the sunlight, flying, flying, in the superlight. In the temple, high above the sea, a sweet, gentle breeze blows through the orange curtains. And here there is a clean energy in every flower and tree, soil and water, wind and sun, our duty to our planet, knowing how to sustain and be sustained by nature, to be proud of all business people on earth as above, unable to understand, unable to bear war, using our kindness to soothe, to comfort, dancing, dancing to transform, in the waves, over the waves, transcending higher and higher. Wounds, no more wounds, in the moonlight, flying, flying, in the supralight. In the temple, high above the sea, a sweet, gentle breeze blows through the orange curtains. And here there is a safe haven for every child, woman, and man, our duty to mankind, knowing how to treat and be treated by others, to be proud of all rulers on earth as above, unable to accept, unable to bear degradation, raising our human hearts to be noble, to create values, dancing, dancing to be sublime, in the waves, over the waves, transcending higher and higher. Wounds, no more wounds, in the starlight, flying, flying, in the supralight. In the temple, high above the sea, a sweet, gentle breeze blows through the orange curtains. And here there is a unity of people from all nations, unlocking the gates of our minds and our hearts into salvation, knowing how to forgive ourselves and others, to be proud of humanity on earth as above, unable to accept, unable to bear discord, raising our human souls to be noble, to uphold values, dancing, dancing to render sublime, in the waves, over the waves, transcending higher and higher. Winners despite our wounds, into the rainbow light, flying, flying in the superlight, flying, flying in the human divine supralight. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Nice one. It was unreal. Thank you. Next up to the open mic, we have Catherine Ronan, please.
Thank you, you're on. Get your name right this time. I have to thank Paul Casey for this poem because I was doing a course with UCC and we studied anaphora. Hope I got that right, Paul? Anaphora? Anyway, so it was first published in Woman's Scream anthology and most recently in the fantastic Blue Mondays anthology. Healer. Take this squinting kitten, stroke into full fur feline, raise me from the shale grave of bed-ridden days. Take these shards, anoint with gold, vesseled, transformed, more beautiful than original sin. Take me in your swollen arms, show me the moon, silver pools of magic. I am the sea. Take my face, whisper, rainbow after rain. Create circles to complete new language. Healer, I am woman, heal me.
Can we have Kenneth Hickey next, please?
Cheers, thanks very much. 2 seconds, I'll just get the poem up. And so my name is Kenneth Hickey. I was lucky enough to have my debut collection published by Revival Press last year. So still plenty of copies available. So I was going to read from that, but because it's the Cork Harp Festival, I changed my mind at the last minute. I'm from Cove, and I served in the Irish Naval Service. So many of my family have been involved to sea. So Cork Harbour is obviously very important to me, and it shows up in my poetry. Of course, the phone goes off. So this poem was published a few months ago. It's not actually in the collection. It was published with Corncrake magazine. And it's actually all about Cork Harbour. So it's called The Great Isle. Beneath a starry night, like the Dutchman would paint, we met as star-crossed lovers. This with a kiss I die. The dark waves lapped at the steps of the stone pier, named for an American president, the one they killed in Dallas, tipped with moonlight. Played with each other like children that first night, strangers exploring new lands, untrodden paths. And in the moonlight once again, a small car by the sea knew the trails through the newly discovered as time passed so beautifully. But charts of harbours now tattered, forcing fate on troubled wave, our little boat, too soft to weather, screams of sirens for the grave. He bellows to the silent heavens, the pagan gods of old, the mute mythical martyrs, a cry in the night on a crackling line. He says the words you cannot say, the White Queen and the Panther passing, to history, to fable, to shining myth, to echoing darkness of dreams, the mystic equations of love proved unprovable. Only language remains, memory filtered and fractured. Thank you.
That's lacking it. We have Constantine next, please.
I'm going to read the 2 or 3 poems, not too long. Traveling. I lay on the warm sand at the edge of the sea. One by one, the stars appeared, big deeper, a little deeper, unimaginable spaces and times. Closing my eyes, I travel like this for a while. I understand better now why the light comes out of the darkness, why things have names. I understand better now why flowers change color, water lilies grow on the bottom of the lake. I fall asleep. I fall asleep on the key of the old piano. In the morning at dawn, I am the river with crystalline water. I wake in the morning, I gather the unspoken words from the previous day. The smell of natural coffee fruit. I'm sitting on green, stagnant water. And the last one. Stars. In the palms of my hand, the stars beat of love and happiness, of life and eternity.
Thanks a lot, Constantine. It's a great pleasure to welcome back to the mic Mary O'Connell.
Thanks, Kieran. Unfortunately, I don't have anything about the sea, but this is just a bit of triviality. It's called Dissection of a Punk. The Platinum Jubilee of the reigning British Queen reminds one of the silver one that wasn't so serene when the Sex Pistols were singing, "She ain't no human being." An insult to that monarch who was held in high esteem. Punk rock was a revolt against convention far and wide. Its mentor, Vivienne Westwood, had McLaren by her side. Inventing a subculture that many would debunk, they presented to the world a fully fashioned punk. A punk is a creature not easy to describe. A special kind of heavy beat could make him come alive. He wore a lot of safety pins and other kinds of junk, like scissors or a loot chain that smelt a bit of skunk. Some had boots with spurs attached that shone like minted guineas. Punk chicks wore fishnet stuffings and leather micro minis. Heavy black mascara made their eyes look wild and sunk. For their mates, a greasy t-shirt was the emblem of a punk. To invite this weirdo home for tea would make your mother blush. His hair was often fuzzy, like a lavatory brush. To tell him what you thought of him would take a lot of spunk. No daddy wants his darling to get mixed up with a punk. A punk could always dye his hair bright green or carrot red, choosing the accessories that gave him more street cred. Perhaps some ditzy females considered him a hunk. He certainly could never be mistaken for a monk.
We missed you a lot, Mary. Class act. One. And we have John Horan next, please.
I thought I was lower down the list. Give me 2 seconds till I find this. Oh, here we are. It's called Weightless Memories, and it does happily mention the sea. I stared at the sun too long. It burnt out my brain a bit. It doesn't really matter. It wasn't working anyway. I was focused on forgiveness and letting go of the bad bits. They were lodged in little crevices, snuck within the dark cliffs, down in the black pits and puddles of darkness. In my mind, I saw the moon reflecting, glowing, gleaming egg yolks. I thought I'd nick a jewel, twinkling on the ridges, of ripples of forgiveness from pebbles I dropped into, lattices of sickness. Up to their old business, sucking life out of me. Nothing's ever easy. No point in complaining. I write some poetry in the hopes that it might save me. To see if it's possible to sing something new into me. What if I could just be a melody of great seas, reaching for the moonbeams and love songs of gravity, and weightless memories, rainbows of dust, and buried old identities. Nothing now but melodies and songs sung into me. Nothing now but moonbeams and weightless memories. Thank you.
Well done. Can we go online now? If we could have Pam Campbell, that'd be great.
Okay. Paul, I think my signal's strong enough. I was going to share my screen if y'all are okay with that, so you can see the shape of my poem.
Sure.
Let's see if this works. If I have a problem, I'll go to plan 2. Oh, okay, I have a problem. I've got a new computer, y'all. I forgot to set up Zoom so I can do this. So I'm going to punt and go to a different. I'll save my shape poem for later. Instead, I'll read this one. Okay, left-handed. My uncle is left-handed like me, at least before I was in 3rd grade. Not that I was treated as devil-touched, just no one knew how to help a left hand hold right-handed scissors or share right-handed space or teach a left hand to make oblong slants to prepare standalone letters to become cursive connected. All this warned that my left hand was a mistake. But Maymal believed a body had a right to be what a body needed to be and didn't change my fork from left to right. And she knew my left-handed mother ghosted my fingers. At big family dinners, I sat next to my left-handed uncle. His hand, elbow, and arm held a non-competing clause with mine. I still eat with my left hand and bat a left-handed drive. I drift left when I walk and birthed a left-handed daughter who had left-handed scissors, who curled her letters in a left-right, right-left, upside-down way, who answered my right elbow with a chuckling left knee. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Pam. We'll have Patricia Walsh next, please.
Okay. This is called Growing from Heads. Thought at a worse time, too dead to walk. Simple mathematics lie faint in the corner. The crazy environment crawls back and forth. Consummated jail time, letting itself go. Very good while it lasted, sleepwalking. Requested doggerel, married under orders. The sacrilegious downside slipping past. Taking up music in your feelings is a better choice. This mediocre joke goes to fame. Betraying the false prophets at singular will. Queens of convenience not handling explosive. Sake of delivery is taking another burn. The lesser organised sports that's lost for sincerity, kill for better bearing, suffer the effort, stonewalling the wet fish, calling pigeons, not even interested now, excavating alone. Not fearing level death, governing stupidity, solo particulars counsel for the worse. The same ye give, busting guts in perpetuity, inheritance under feet of the still entitled. Worse artists and residents wearing thick, wishing to stay, beasting, taking by force, attending a reply, barring others for less, cheerful answer unheeded, whimsical design. Thank you.
Thanks, Patrick. You're like you might have to contain yourself for what's going to happen next. But that's the biggest sex symbol to come to Cork since Benjamin Burns left Cork. Since Benjamin Burns.
Thank you, Kieran. Hello, Cork. It's nice to be on tour. It's nice that so many of you came to see me on the open mic. This is called Celestial Hunk. It does. The sun is so fucking hot. The sun in my mouth. The sun between your legs. The bright globes of oranges that swell and ripen, grasped between palms where the palm trees sway, and I suck the sweet juice out, wipe my sticky chin clean, pleasure the skin beneath my feet as I climb your stiff trunk, higher, higher, yes, 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 lay down flat to that astronomical sex god burning up in the sky, too fucking hot to comprehend, too fucking hot to even look at.
Good to have you back in Cork, Kate. Megan Regan's next, who's also performing at Sling Slang on Wednesday in these around. The two, both Ben and Megan.
Thanks, Kieran. This one is called Skin. My fingers trace your shoulder blades, lingering in your groovy glades, then the outline of your spine as it meanders and inclines. My palms swirl over your mounds, cupping and kneading your rounds, stretching my fingers to inner thighs, lingering, nerve endings tingling. Behind your knees, I slowly feel, lightly touch and twirl, gradually quickening round and round, exploring contours, up and down, melting and melding sensations, heat-inducing elation, skin meshing dilation, fitting your flesh into mine. And don't forget Sling Slang, as Kieran said, with Benjamin Burns and myself on Wednesday at 7 in Maureen's.
Nice one, Megan. Yeah, we're going to go back online there now. Daniel Shaw, is it?
Hey, how y'all doing? Daniel Scholl. So I am traveling this week, unfortunately, so I can't be there. But the good thing was that I was able to write this following poem in the airport. So this is called I've Been Working on Silence. I've always been quiet, but this is new. This is beyond. Wherever you are reading this, already too loud. These words rattle from the page through the mind, including mine, and I know them well. It's about simplicity, slowing down, the capitalist's worst fear, not needing anything more to purchase, consume, repeat, compete. Not this. This is no challenge, though it's difficult. This is no race, though it's already late. Let them call me basic, vanilla, plain. I'm looking for the ordinary, the origin. I'm looking for the mundane. I want the extra mundane, the intangible. It moves softer than a wisp, wistfully, calmly, effortlessly. There then, here now, still. Shh. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Could we, is this gone? 1, 2, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 1. Cheers. Could we have Jay Griffin up next, please? Cheers.
Hi. Like everyone, I forgot about the Harbour Festival and wasn't prepared, but I scoured through my Instagram and found something kind of related to the sea, I suppose, or something in it. It's called Sea Glass. A sharp piece of broken glass made its way to the ocean floor. They listened to the songs of whales and dreamt of drifting to the shore. In time it felt it had forgot the sky above the sea, but when it troubled the water, storms were all that it could see. It learned the way of rolling stones and lived among their gang. It became less broken still when off the siren sang. All its chips and scars became a beautiful tattoo. It held the colour of a cloud against a sky of blue. As time passed on, the piece of glass was not glass anymore and washed up as a gemstone after drifting to the shore. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Jake. Could we have Colin Foley next, please?
Cheers. Yeah, I didn't have this ready, but to stick with the team, I found one to fit. You know you're in before you get there. You stand at the bank, smelling the air, listening to the river as it lulls you in. You're ready to go. You strip down, and one slow step after another, you find yourself in, submerged. It is a cold. You embrace the cold and dunk. You've had your fill. You make your way out. Only when you're out, you wish you had stayed longer. On the bank you are warm. The October sun says hello. The October breeze has nothing on the river. You are reminded why and look forward to forgetting.
Nice one, Connor. We're going to go online next then. We're going to have Seamus Harrington. He's knocking around. Nice one, Seamus, man.
Hey everybody, sorry about the poor cut earlier and then it crashed 10 minutes later. This one is called Rowing. We puff and heave, strain and tug, oarlooms pushed before the hug, carbon fibered blades all dipped to bite blue water past the slip. On return stroke feathering now, in deference here all heads bow, next stroke faster and more force, windsurfing clown get off the course, straight and true without a roll, well-honed muscles play their role, lungs of power beyond belief, fitness leads, no grounds for grief. Drive that yawl on this event, row and row without relent, The leader's just a canvas clear, her stroke seems lighter than last year. Straining backs and legs, the quiver, forcing hard down tidal river, searing pain on each face red. Without a wake, we streak ahead. They flash in military precision, a hiss disguising each incision. 2,000 meters yet to turn, the coaxing, chanting cocks in stern. Not one length between us yet. Pull round the boys as one octet. Number 2 with keel cut back. Here's her chance to mount attack. Straightening up, the lead has changed. Results may yet be rearranged. With guts on fire inside a knot, each heart yearns for that shot. No cheering masses waving banners, no veering ribs with bad manners, no long air horns to trumpet loud, no heave or push in surging crowd. That comes later on in season. When I explain, you'll see the reason. It's early summer, yet none complaining, 'cause these ladies are just out training. Thank you.
But I didn't forget the team anyway. Coming out from a boat.
Yeah, there was no fucking.
This is Antonio Demers.
Hi. So this poem is called the Bloomsday. Since on this Thursday it's gonna be the Bloomsday. So it's the 100th anniversary of James Joyce Ulysses. So I have dedicated this poem to Bloomsday. 16th of June, 1904. Epiphany on 7 Eccles Street. Ithaca and beginning of the journey. Nostos, leaving from Dublin city centre up to Dublin Bay, switching to Sandy Cove, and closing on Oath Head. Screams and shouts of the Listrigonians inside the Davy Burney's pub. Time is cut piece by piece, eaten by the Lotus Eaters in Sweeney's Pharmacy, up to Lombard Street. Better to have some rest. National Library. But suddenly the pages of the books fly away to become the monsters Scylla and Charybdis. A nice rest with the lullabies of sirens in Ormond Hotel, forgetting Penelope in Calypso's bed. The pain will be held by Church in Bella Cohen's brothel. Blown away by the wind off on O'Connell Street, we will be meeting Leopold Bloom, Molly Bloom, and Stephen Dedalus. What's the crack, guys? What's the story? Someone will ask. We're grand, just posting something on Instagram. Leopold Bloom will say. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Antonio. Yeah, can we have Jordan McCarthy next week?
This is a poem about the seaside. I was on a walk, I think, during lockdown on Youghal Beach.
and I saw a man painting actually on the sand, and it's something that stayed with me, and I felt I had to write about it. So it's called, he happens to be a diver as well, so it's keeping the theme, I think, of the Harbour Festival. It's called The Painter on the Beach. You whisk the brush across the canvas. A winter wind billows above the sand. You whisk the brush in a flash of light. Walkers look on and gasp at your creation. You whisk the brush in that familiar palette beat, surfing waves of love, or Painter on the Beach. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay, we go back online now and have Brian Generalissimo, please.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say, I don't think I could handle being in a bar with both Catherine Ronan and Margaret O'Regan reading poetry at the same time. I don't know. I would explode. Okay. My poem is called Trying to Comprehend the Physics of Tears. Why do some tears feel so hot? They could cut a rut down my cheek as a path for future tears, while some tears feel as if they broke off an Arctic ice floe into the Atlantic, waiting to sink the Titanic. Why do my eyes decide to boil saline or keep inventory in ice cube trays? How do the powers that be decide what life events warrant what temperatures? I understand why I cry, but I don't understand why sometimes tears drop from only one eye, or why tears sometimes pour down in torrents, but sometimes trickle like maple sap on a late February day. I can't comprehend the physics of crying. Sometimes I cry for no reason at all because I have a disease called depression. Sometimes the littlest thing will set me off. Maybe a memory gets triggered about my deceased mother or father, my friend Beth, who passed from cancer. It can be a song, or line in a movie, or Madras hat, or potato soup, or Labrador retriever. Sometimes I feel I am a slave to my tears. I wonder if I sometimes cry hoping a tear will track down my cheek to the edge of my lips so I can taste saline, so I can taste sadness, so I can taste hurt, so I can taste anger, so I can taste heartbreak that causes this substance to secrete from my body via my emotions. Why do I feel compelled to tell anyone who bears witness to my crying it's just allergies, when crying is an essential mental health physiological response? Crying is not a sign of fragility, but an indication of fortitude. It's how our bodies shed dead bark that exists on trees that inhabit our souls. Yet when I cry in the presence of others, I tend to turn away when what I need most is a validating smile or hug or patronizing shoulder squeeze. Tears are a gift from God. Tears are a gift to our lips and the tip of our tongue. Tears are a gift to our skin. Sometimes after a good cry, my face feels like it feels after I dunk my head in the ocean when my skin breathes because my soul is breathing. The next time you want to stop yourself from crying, don't. Learn to celebrate your tears. They're hard to celebrate when they're happening. Once I saw a poet recite a poem. One line the poet calmly uttered after an emotional and passionate passage is seared into my psyche. The reason the sun can shine bright during a thunderstorm is the same reason a good cry is best followed by a quick, impromptu laugh. Gracias, everyone.
Thanks a lot, Brian. Unreal. Cheers. We're going to actually stay online and we're going to have watching Brent as well, please.
Lüftchen. Lüftchen? Just eten. Is he going to take over? Give her a shot there again, Lüftchen.
Is there a brooch in Brent there? I'm terrible at I'm terrible at German.
Calling on Brötchen Brent.
Brötchen Brent.
Entschuldigung, ich bin, I'm sorry, I didn't expect to be so soon up. Damn it. Right? And I'm trying to, yes, the camera is on. Okay, so hello everyone from Berlin. And yeah, so most of you know me as Ada, but Brötchenbrand for everyone is, it means, you know, a little bread skin burns, a little loaf of bread burns. So that's how I feel in life. I thought to put that up. Yeah, so I will start, and there are some things that Word did not destroy. Is my camera is always doing this, so you'll have to enjoy. Russians. I will start with a small poem about not having a home, you know, while having one, or staying somewhere but not really having a home. So this is I will translate it and then read the original. It's okay. So it's called Where To. And it sounds like, it translates like, I feel so bad, the nature doesn't help, I want out. It's too small here, where to go, no home. And in German, it's rhymed, so it sounds better automatically. Wohin? Geht mir so schlecht, Natur hilft nicht, will raus. Hier zu klein, wohin? Kein Haus. And that's the first one for me, and the second is also a poem. The third will be like a prose poem. So the second one is called Problem, and it's about, as Stephen Fry said, a problem. That is life. And it translates, life is so difficult, there is always suffering. When you enjoy it, you have to decide to eat your eyes and forget everything, not to notice the screams, and just not to think anymore. And in German that sounds, das Leben ist so schwer, immer gibt's Leiden. Wenn du das genießt, musst dich entscheiden, die Augen aufzupressen, alles bloß vergessen, schreien nicht bemerken, einfach nicht mehr denken. And that's the second one. And the third one is a letter. Actually, it was supposed to be a long letter about, you know, my traveling, when the war started and everything else. But it just came out shortish when I finally got to writing it. And this is in English, so that makes it more helpful. And I called it Letter of Resignation, in a sense of resigning from, you know, attempting to do something. So basically resigning from my original idea of writing something more elaborate and precise. So instead of this, Hi Oveo, I am Ukrainian German with experience of living underground and scars. A guitar case remained into a backpack. All I had when war continued to cover all of Ukraine. I loved the shrimps from the volunteering restorators. It was cold. I thought to write about my unique experience and then thought, no, they may feel compassionate and feel what I feel to an extent, but they'll never get why I felt that. So no point. I thought to try to explain the course of history and the net of life Russians have woven, but who cares? No one wants to break their bubble until it's broken, and I won't endeavor to try and persuade anyone to do so. I will plainly state without proof how things stand, and hope to whatever God available, some of your hearts will feel the heat of my burning earth and understand overreaction, not compromise, is called for. We're facing real evil here, on a real scale. 1. It's not politics in quote marks, as people use colloquially to reduce the term to something abstract, too non-existent. It's life. Stop building artificial barriers. You can only protect yourself for so long. 2nd, Russians haven't started it in February 2022, but in 1917, and never changed their evil ways during that time, not once. Yeltsin my arse, okay? 3rd, not staying away from the conflict doesn't help. No, staying away from the conflict doesn't help. it makes it lower, harder, more devastating. Fourth, no, Third World War is not terrible because A, it's just another phase of the Second World War, and B, because it's already on. Stop being afraid and take the responsibility. Fifth, every Russian who is not literally undermining the regime, and for them donations and just helping the refugees are especially not enough, is compliant and therefore guilty. They have yet to prove they are fully human. 6. Forgive and forget is bullshit invented by perpetrators of various crimes. That's the end of my letter. Hope it makes you think. Thanks, everyone.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you, Ada. We're all wishing you very well from Cork. Thanks for that. Stand up, please.
This is not a poem called An Ovale Education in Bullet Points. Please take notes. There will be a test here. 1. Light is the most overused word in poetry. 2. You can make sandwiches with many ingredients, including resurrected lettuce leaves. 3. The lads online want ice cream and know your name. 4. Jesus, Jim likes his name, but is happy to be known as JJ too. 5. Most 5-word poems are titled, not titled yet. 6. Johnny Rotten almost made an appearance tonight. Maybe next month as guest poet Paul Casey. 7. Sandwich can be rhymed with sounds with. Thanks, Augustina. 8. Bewitched is a TV show as well as an Irish girl band. 9. A goosebump reading meter should be sourced to help accurately assess competition winners. 10. Despite Johnny Rotten's non-appearance, Punk, thanks to Mary O'Connell, lives on.
Paparazzi stand like that. Paparazzi stand as the fucking story straight off the fucking press, baby. Not a bother on it. Shock it down. We're gonna have Stu Blue next, please.
Hey!
When the reading glasses come on, you know it's about age. I didn't actually prepare as well. Like unfortunately, I really would have liked to choose one for the sea, but I didn't. Now, I did have a plan to read one from the book, one of my own. But then there's another one that is actually about the sea, and so I'm deciding right now that I'm reading a poem by John Michael Tynan, my dear co-editor and dear friend, and it's called Sacred Splinter. Punched by the devil from the roof of hell, it blasts immutable from the sea. Cold angular crags roar blackest menace. These skellig shafts of Mihir, scoring steely sky. Rosy bead gannets drape in pietistic meditation. The resting place of Ir, son of Milesius. So drawn to nature's schism, eremitical monks embrace the westerly wind that tears at skin, beards glistened by rasping rain, that spikes their guilt and scalds the soul of sins of weakness. Thus risen to the top of Satan's rage, to abide closer to their God of damnation / salvation, sacred splinter dedicated to the Archangel. And that was obviously about Skellig Michael.
Thanks a lot, Steve. And we have Jim Quickard next, a 5-word challenge champion.
So this poem is called The Hungry Ghosts, and it's inspired by this poet Jane Ye, and she kind of does like little caricatures of things like ghosts and cyborgs and things, and religion's going to get a little bit of a hammering at the end again from me. So. JJ got out.
I told you there was a comma in there. Jesus.
The hungry ghosts. We stand in the glow of shop windows watching televisions, bathe in town square fountains and sluice through the mouths of angels. The tasteless nouveau deceased sleep in bank vaults, are always bragging about their funerals. They attend real estate viewings of their old houses to slam doors. Perverted ghosts go unnoticed. Ectoplasm is excellent lube. Pets are the only defense. If your dog starts barking at nothing, or your cat darts up curtains, they're chasing dead perverts away. We seek out mediums, but they respond vaguely as a magic 8-ball. Charity work includes guiding drunks home with telekinetic kebabs. We also work at the Ouija board call center, but mostly get prank calls or existential questions that are outside our scope of support. The callers always complain when we refer them to God's hotline because there's never any answer, and the hold music is terrible.
Thanks, Jim. We have another JJ, JJ Fish.
Go on, Jay.
Yeah, the real incarnate. The real JJ incarnate.
Who's JJ first?
That's never coming. We're both amazing poets of equal merit, so no competition. I didn't hear what the peanut gallery saying in the back.
I said, but you're not G.
No, I'm not at all. So this poem is not about the sea. This poem is short and sad and about sex. This poem is called Short, Sad Sex Poem. We hadn't seen each other in some time, yet you sent me a text last week asking if I was fine. It's currently 3 a.m, and you do like a bit of late night light nicotine. So I light up a pair of cigarettes after sex. We each take a puff, slick with sweat. I see you blush and know for you, the rush of regret comes next. Neither one of us came, so the unspoken question still hangs. What does come next? That went unanswered, and you took the next cab home. So this is it, my short, sad sex poem.
Why not another round?
And, sorry. Well, I mean, that's part 2 of the poem, but look. Oh, I don't have that written yet. The first one ended prematurely, you know? Sorry about that, that never happens, it never happens. Look.
The second one will be a longer one.
Yeah, I promise, the next one will be longer. I was gonna say, if we're promoting shows, and I'm shameless about that, I'm curating a show every month called Pros and Woes.
Oh, yes.
And so I can announce publicly for the first time, July 6th at 7 p.m. on a Wednesday at the upstairs room at the Franciscan Well, Pros and Woes 2 is going to happen. And it's me, it's Jim, it's Cara Kirsch, it's Jamie O'Shea, and some special guests that we haven't figured out yet. So free show, come on out. Yeah.
Nice one, Jay. The sea is always the same color. It came again and again against the rocks, invading crevices and corners. The sea foam atop the sea moved like bellowing snow winds, as the sea cleansed and cradled the rock. Never tired, always searching, the sea moves in packs of waves, taking its fill of the beach. The beach is powerless to the sea. It is forced to welcome it, and so it welcomes it softly. The sea keeps its own time, moves in every direction, filling space as it leaves it. The sea picks up and drops things. The sea breeds shells and sand and stone, material waste, fish and weed and plankton and plant. The sea breeds creature. The sea is always the same color. It is only the light that changes. What color is the sea? That's gonna about finish off the 672nd Ovale. Yeah. And just before we go, just a huge thank you to Waddy for coming, but also for our guest poets, Susan Rich and Amanda Bell. We give them a huge round of applause. Thank you for your beautiful reading. To all our participants online, all of you who've come to the Long Valley, thank you for all your poems and your work. It was a very beautiful evening. We're going to go over to Maine's for an old sit down and a drink and a chat and all that. So if you're up for that, come and join us. Yeah, big thank you to you all. Have a good evening.